Well, check out the winter wonderland I have found myself in now. It's time to go fly. Okay, guys, it is freezing out here, freaking freezing. I got my gloves, I got my jacket, I got 3 pairs of pants on. I'm gonna have to leave that open unless I can get to my keys. Oh, I can get to my keys. Flat top, baby. Boom, let's get my wing. Let's set her up, and let's go rip it up, dude. Holy crap, the floor is slippery. This might just be one very adventurous launch. Let's go, let's go. 2 poles, freezing cold. Oh, baby, let's go. Here goes nothing. Crosswind launch. Come on, man. Woo! Oh, baby. Now that water has got to be cold. Dude, it's a freaking winter wonderland. Flying in the snow. Oh yeah, this is the good stuff. My face isn't as cold as I expected it to be. Oh, baby. Oh! Little foot drag action. Ooh, a little road. Let's follow this dirt road. Maybe, just maybe, I could drop it in for a foot drag. Buddy. Woo! Foot dragging! Speaking of foot drags, guys, today I want to talk about how you do a foot drag as I'm foot dragging. Whoa! This is rough surface to be dragging some foot, dude. Okay, so foot dragging. There's a lot of things that come with foot dragging that you want to know. First off is the surface. You don't just want to foot drag any surface. You want to foot drag very smooth surfaces. You don't want to foot drag gravel. You don't want to foot drag rocks with dirt with big rocks in it and stuff like that. You want a very smooth surface. Water is probably the best surface to foot drag, if not hard packed sand. Those are the 2 surfaces that I prefer to foot drag. So you got water, you got hard packed sand. Those are going to be your best 2 surfaces for foot dragging because they're the smoothest. You don't want to foot drag things like sand. So you also don't want to foot drag something like soft sand. The reason you don't want to foot drag soft sand is because it's going to kick stuff up into your prop. Same reason you don't want to foot drag gravel, because you're going to kick little rocks up into your propeller. So you want to foot drag something where it's very smooth, like water, or like a surface that I'm over right now, or some snow. If you've got some snow on the ground, some grass. Grass is really great to foot drag. Hard packed sand is really great to foot drag. You don't want to foot drag soft sand because there's going to be too much drag. One reason we like really soft or really smooth surfaces is because of drag. With foot dragging, you're now producing extra drag as you're dragging your foot through whatever surface that you're flying over. And as a result, you need either extra power or more brake to kind of keep yourself maintaining altitude. Now, one good tip that you really want to know when you're foot dragging is you want your trims up. You want to go as fast as possible, especially on a surface like water where it's really good at grabbing you and pulling you in. Sand is a little different if it's hard packed. Grass is a little different because it doesn't like grab you. But water will grab and pull you into it. And so it's important if you're foot dragging something like water that you go as fast as possible. You want your trims up if you can. You want, as fast as you possibly can get, even foot drag downwind, because you just want to be going as fast as you possibly can. So that's what we've touched on so far. Good surfaces to foot drag. You want to be going as fast as possible. And when you start, you want to be foot dragging on flat surfaces. You want to kind of know this environment that you're flying on. You know, I don't want to be foot dragging up over there as it's changing altitude and elevation and there's a big rock. That just increases my chances of hitting the ground and increases my risk. I want to foot drag a smooth, flat surface if possible. You can foot drag uphill, you can foot drag downhill. It's not the end of the world. You know, it's probably not the best thing to do if you're a new guy, but it's a total no biggie once you kind of get it. Now, to learn to foot drag, for me, I had a mental block of the ground. I couldn't get myself to come all the way down. Mind you, I was 13 when I learned, so I was a little bit nervous of the ground. What did I do? I stuck a water bottle, a tall, like, smart water bottle that's about a foot tall, in the ground, and I flew by and I kicked it. And I would do that, or I did that for like an entire afternoon. And slowly I worked my way from kicking just barely the top of the bottle to just barely skimming the ground. And I would just ever so slightly skim the ground and try and get, you know, 3 to 5 foot drag, then maybe a 10-foot foot drag, and just work my way up to foot dragging in longer distances. Foot dragging is really just about altitude control. And all you're trying to do is control your altitude within a foot to 2 feet. Because if you go 2 feet too low, you're going to hit the ground. If you go a foot too high, you're probably going to come off the ground. So you're trying to foot drag, you know, within a 12-inch margin, which isn't all that much. So there's a lot of gas and brake inputs. Brake inputs are going to be your micro inputs. They're going to be your quick, aka instant or nearly instant inputs. If I need to go up 10 feet, boom, I hit brake, I shoot up. If I need to go down, boom, hands go up, I dive in the ground. Throttle is going to be your more delayed. See, I hit throttle, now I go up. I let off, now I go down. So throttle is more of your macro or larger inputs, and brake is more of your micro, your little tiny inputs. You know, I will ease more into throttle. If, you know, I start to sink down and I start to come near the ground, I'll get into those brakes and immediately start getting into the throttle. And as the throttle increases and as I start to get more lift from the engine, I'll ease my hands back up. And that leads me to your best, your most optimal hand position while foot dragging. It is not hands all the way up. I just realized I don't have that much gas. So your most optimal hand position while foot dragging is not going to be hands all the way up at the pulleys. The reason why is because what if you start to come off the ground? You start to lift off the ground, getting your hands up 4 or 5 inches is going to be good for bringing you back down to the ground. And so it's best you want, you know, 6 inches of brake to 4 or 5 inches of brake. You want to stay closer to the up than to the down. You don't want to be down here because then you don't have much room to hit brakes if you start to go down. You don't want to be all the way up here because you don't have a lot of room to go hands up if you start to come off the ground. However, hands up is a safer spot to be in than hands down. If I'm down like this and I start to sink in, I only got so much brake to pull before I'm out of brake. If I'm hands up and I start to come off the ground, so what? I come off the ground, I come back down, I start another foot drag. It isn't the end of the world. It's better to keep your hands just a little bit into those brakes so you have some room to dive back and dive down and get yourself back down. And that's kind of that. So you want to make sure you foot drag a good surface. You want to foot drag something that's smooth, that's buttery, that you can glide across. You don't want to foot drag something that's going to be a little on the rough side, like gravel, because gravel's going to kick stuff into your propeller. You want to do it as fast as possible. If I'm going to be foot dragging, my trims are up. I'm not on a reflex glider, I can get away with it. Put your trims up, accelerate your glider as much as you can, fly as fast as you can while foot dragging, especially on water. you're gonna foot drag water, foot drag it as fast as you can, fly downwind, get as much speed. Because if you're going a certain, there's a certain speed at which you pass on water, where all of a sudden you're just gliding across it versus dragging through it. And you want to try and get as close to that gliding across it area as you can. If you can't get, if you can't be doing 35, 40 miles an hour, okay, I get it. But you want to go as fast as possible while foot dragging water. Keep your hands a little bit into those brakes. Now, let's say you're foot dragging and you start to go in, let's say, to the ground. You start to come crashing down. Flare and kill the motor. No. And so you start to come down, there reaches a point where you gotta let yourself hit the ground, especially on water. If you're going into water, if you're coming down onto some water and you don't have any brake range left, you're full power, you're going in. You realize you're going in, hands up, kill the motor, let the glider overfly you and land in front of you. You don't want to land, flare and land where the glider comes crashing down on top of you. You want to get your hands up and let the glider overfly you so it's in front of you and away from you when you end up in the water. Obviously, don't ever foot drag water, if you don't have flotation and a quick release harness. Both of these things are things that increase your odds of getting out of there in a safe manner. If you don't have a quick release harness, I wouldn't suggest foot dragging water. You want to be able to get out and away from the motor and away from the lines. If you don't have flotation, it's probably a good idea. If you got a quick release, you can get away with it. Still a good idea to have flotation. Attach it to the motor. That way if you go in, even if you don't use the flotation for yourself, it's easier to recover the equipment with flotation. So those are kind of those tips. Now, how do you learn? There's a couple ways. One, I explained the water bottle, which is how I did it. And I took my time. I put a water bottle, I had a stick, I had a spoon, I had a whole bunch of things that I flew by and hit. Another way you can do it that one of our guys who works with us, Mike, I taught him how to foot drag. The way I taught him was with tall weeds. We'd fly by tall weeds, I'd have him get out of his seat above the weeds and practice just flying above the weeds out of the seat. Practice, 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 because this is uncomfortable if you're not used to it. All of a sudden now you feel like you're falling, it's uncomfortable, it's weird, it's different. You want to be comfortable hanging out of the seat, because that's how you're going to be foot dragging. If you've never flown in the sky out of your seat, well, it's going to be a little weird. It's going to be a little weird when you go to foot drag. So get out of your seat when you go to foot drag, or when you're wanting to learn how to foot drag, get out of your seat, practice flying near the ground out of your seat. Try kicking the top of a tree, maybe not kicking the top of the tree, but you know what I mean. Practice flying out of your seat. Another thing that's a big deal with foot drags is oscillation control. You don't want to be flying near the ground if you are oscillating. Oscillating is basically where the glider rocks back and forth uncontrollably. Or unintentionally, I should say. All gliders do it. Some gliders do it more than others. Like the Dominator right here barely oscillates, but if it does oscillate, it stops it itself, which is super cool and one of the reasons we really love it for newer pilots. But you don't want to be near the ground if you're oscillating. If you're down and you're trying to foot drag, you're oscillating, you're going in. It's just a matter of time, and that's not a situation you want to be in. So practice flying out of your seat, make sure you don't oscillate. Now let's get into a little bit more technique things. Let's say you are foot dragging. What is the best way for your foot? How do you want your foot to be as you're on the ground? There's two different ways. One, you can put your foot out like this. Two, you can roll it sideways like this. I hope you guys can see that. Imagine the ground is in front of me, my foot is gliding across with the back of my foot right here, just skimming the ground. This way it is probably best for most surfaces. The only time that I don't use this method is when I'm foot dragging water. When I'm foot dragging water, I actually turn the foot and roll it behind me. So I'm dragging on this part right here on the front, right next to the Puma sign. I want to drag right there if I'm on water. Curl the foot, put it down behind me, boom. The reason we do it that way on water versus this way is the curl the foot method, it kind of holds you a little more stable. Like the foot forward, sometimes I'll swing forward and it'll move side to side and I'm a little sloppy on water. The curled foot down, it holds me planted in one spot and I'm not slopping around as I'm trying to foot drag the water. That's usually how you ruin shoes, is the curled foot method. You foot drag some anything but water with the curled foot method, you're gonna ruin a shoe. But it works, and that's definitely the best way to do it. Now let's say you're in a foot drag and you want to turn. Let's say you're foot dragging water, you want to do like a circle. You know, because you got the circle foot drags. That's the big thing for Dell. Circle foot drags, blah blah blah. Well, how do you turn in a foot drag? It's best when foot dragging not to use the brake for any inputs. You don't want to change directions with brake, because now you've used some of your flare authority, now you use some of your altitude control to change direction. Now you got to get the hand back up, re-accelerate to get that energy to have that brake. So the best way to make a direction change when foot dragging is with weight shift. And I'll be honest with you, I've been flying a swing arm version pair motor, and it's quite a bit more difficult to weight shift in a foot drag than it is the flat top. You know, what a great thing with the flat top is you can give yourself little increments. You can give the tiniest little bit of weight shift. If I need 3% to the right, I can go 3% to the right. If I need 3% to the left, I go 3% to the left. But if I'm going to be changing directions, I'm going to be doing it with weight shift. As you start to change a direction, depending on how fast you change the direction, you're going to need more power. You're going to need more speed. So as you start to make that direction change, you ease more into that throttle. And that's kind of how you do it. Anyways, I hope that helped some of you guys, at least shared some techniques that I use for foot dragging. I'm sure there's more of them, but thank you guys for watching. I'm going to land this thing because my ankles are freezing right now. No, I'm enjoying it, and I don't think I have much gas. Came out for a quick flight before I even finish my coffee, man. Alright, we'll do a little foot drag to landing. Now this technique of landing is pretty freaking sweet. It's similar to a foot drag and also entirely different from a foot drag, because you stop in this one versus a foot drag where you don't really stop. Now I know the surface is super slippery, so I'm going to try and nail it on this gravel. But you basically, you know, foot drag landing, you come down near the ground, ease off power and into the brakes at the same time. Wow. And done. Thank goodness I landed on the gravel, because if I... Oh, hey. Looks like I landed downwind. Way to go, me. Oh, good. It is filming. I'll tell you, anybody that films content knows the fear of landing and it not being filmed. Alrighty guys, well my name is Trevor Steele with Flat Top Air Motors. That was a quick video on how to foot drag. I hope you liked the video. If you want to learn more about how to fly, go to flyflattop.com. Check out our website to learn more about the flat top, the Dominator, and super training, and we will see you in the next video.